Welcome to the Politics Chicks podcast. I'm Christy Branham.
And I'm Monica Healy.
Today, we're so honored to be joined by Senator Tina Smith, who has represented Minnesota in the United States Senate since 2018 after previously serving as Minnesota's lieutenant governor.
Senator Smith believes politics should be about improving people's lives. And during her time in the Senate, she has helped pass more than 70 bills and provisions into law, including efforts that helped establish Juneteenth as a federal holiday, expand access to mental health care, and advance the most significant climate legislation in U.S. history.
Now in her final year in the Senate, Senator Smith continues to be a fierce advocate for Minnesotans while focusing on the next chapter of her life.
She and her husband Archie have called Minnesota home for more than 40 years and are the proud parents of 2 sons, 2 daughters-in-law, 4 grandchildren, and 1 very lucky black lab named Moose.
Yay, thank you for coming on today, Senator Smith. We're
Thank
so
you.
glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christy and Monica. I'm so glad to join the Politics Chicks.
We're going to
You
make
are
you
an
a chick
honorary
for
chick.
today. Yes. Okay, before we jump in
Great.
with the things that we had planned to ask you, would you be willing to comment on both the War Powers Act the Senate passed yesterday and the president's refusal to sign the bipartisan housing bill into law until the SAVE Act passed?
Yeah. Okay. So much chaos. It's just kind of unbelievable. But first, the War Powers Act. So this is a really big deal. After 10 times trying, Democrats, all of the Democrats but 1 and 4 Republicans passed in the Senate a War Powers Act, which basically says that the war in Iran should stop, and that if the president is going to do anything further in Iran with American troops, that he needs to ask the permission of Congress, which is what the Constitution says. This was a resolution. It also passed the House, and it's a pretty big deal. It is certainly symbolic in the sense that there's nothing that's going to force this president to do the right thing, but it is a big deal because it's the first time that members of the president's own party have joined with Democrats to say this war is bad for our constituents. It's bad for America. We don't trust you on this, and we need it to stop.
And how about the SAVE Act?
Oh, so
Yeah.
this is just unbelievable. So, talk about snatching defeat from the jaws of victory here.
Mhm.
We have passed the most significant housing legislation that has passed Congress in the last 30 years or so to boost the supply of housing and help lower housing costs, probably the number one issue that I hear about for Minnesotans, and was negotiated with the damn president. And suddenly, out of the blue this morning, he says, I'm not going to even sign the bill until the Senate passes the SAVE Act, which is this ridiculous piece of legislation that does not have support, which would, among many things, basically do away with mail-in voting, along with a bunch of other stuff that would make it so much harder for legal voters to vote in this country.
Especially women. It's going to make it harder for women,
Yes.
like Monica and I, who took our husbands' names when we
Yeah.
got married.
Such a great point. If your name changes and you have to go through this whole process of re-registering to vote. And I took my husband's name. I mean, we've been married for over 40 years.
Right.
And my birth certificate says my name is Christine Flint. So, it's not a well thought through piece of legislation, but it's worse than that because it really is designed to take away people's rights to vote. And that's, I think, because he thinks that's the only way that he can win elections.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to
Exactly.
count myself as one of those people that did not know that Tina came from Christina.
Yes. Yeah. Usually the only people that call me Christine are people that don't know me very well, like new doctors. And when I go to get my driver's license renewed.
Okay, fun fact. My real name is Christine.
I was
And the-
wondering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the only person who calls me Christine is my mom when she's mad at me, and I'm 56 years old.
Christine,
Yeah.
come see me. Right.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So we're going to just jump right into the boundary waters because that is such a Minnesota issue, right?
Yeah.
You've spent years protecting the boundary waters. And Monica and I, we recently published a piece examining the efforts to expand mining near the watershed and the questionable economic interests behind those proposals. So for listeners who may not fully understand what's at stake, can you talk about why the boundary waters is so important, not just environmentally, but culturally and economically to
Yeah.
Minnesota?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, anybody who's watching this, if you haven't seen what Monica and Christy did, you really should check it out. I looked at it this morning, and it's such an impressive analysis of how the money is flowing. A lot of times you can answer a lot of questions by saying, follow the money. And that's what you all laid out so well. It's really
Thank you.
impressive. So, the Boundary Waters is one of the great places on Earth. It is on a par with Grand Canyon and Zion and Denali National Park. It's just exceptional places of uniqueness and beauty. It also is deeply connected to Minnesota's culture and the culture of Minnesota before Minnesota was even here, because it is the ancestral homeland of the Anishinaabe people, the Chippewa people, and Ojibwe people, all of the same groups of folks that have lived in that part of the country, this landmass, for time immemorial. And what's at stake here is whether or not we take this special place, one of the most widely visited wilderness areas in the whole country, and whether we allow mining, copper sulfide mining, to happen on the doorstep of the Boundary Waters. And understand, if we do that, these kinds of mines, particularly in these places, they always result in water pollution, and that would be devastating to the environment and devastating to the recreational opportunities and hunting and fishing, and very bad for the people that are there. So what Congressman Pete Stauber from the 8th District up in that part of Minnesota has been trying to do for a long time is open this mine up, and that's really what's at stake. What people need to understand, and you all laid out so well, is that this mine would be built by a foreign conglomerate. It would build the mine, move the minerals, the ore, to most likely to China, where it would be smelted and then sold back to Americans. So it doesn't even really address our supply needs for critical minerals, because it essentially would just ship all the minerals someplace else. We're left with the pain, and this company and their investors get all the gain.
And the company is from Chile. It is not an
Yes.
American company. They
It
do
is
have an
not.
American subsidiary, but it's
Exactly.
still, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's exactly right. And there's been a lot of economic analysis of this mine. I helped to put a 20-year moratorium on building a mine in this area. And the reason that happened was massive analysis was done looking at the likelihood of damage done to the Boundary Waters watershed, and the risk was just too great. But the other thing that's super interesting is that it would also probably have a net negative economic impact on this part of the state, because there would be jobs lost, an economic opportunity lost because of the mine that would be greater than the economic gain over even the medium term from building this mine.
I think that's one of the things that people are missing up in northern Minnesota when people like Pete Stauber talk about the importance of mining, and it actually ends up with a net loss of jobs in the mining industry.
And I think it's always important to remember we live in a state that is so blessed with natural resources, including mineral resources. Minnesota is a mining state. And most people in Minnesota, I'm not opposed to mining. Mining is a strong economic driver. But that doesn't mean that you support every mine in every place. And I think that's the sort of the value that is at risk here with this mine to be built.
And we're talking about literally an area, one of the only areas in the country where the water is still safe to drink out of the ground.
Yeah, I don't know if either one of you have ever been or spent any time in the
Yeah.
Boundary Waters, but so
Mhm.
you know what it's like. You canoe out and you can go into the middle of the lake and dip your mug into the lake and drink it, because it's that clean.
Yeah.
And it's one of the largest freshwater resources any place in the country.
It's so close to the hearts of Minnesotans, but can you talk about why it's important on a national level, not just to Minnesota?
Yeah. Oh, it's such a great point. And we really learned this when we were having this big battle in Congress trying to stop Congressman Stauber's bill to reopen mining in the watershed. And what we found is people from all over the country, hunters and anglers and outdoor enthusiasts, the descendants of President Theodore Roosevelt, who was responsible for the original protection of this land when Superior National Forest was created back in like 1907. People from all over the country who appreciate the uniqueness of this resource and want to protect it. Also, all the small businesses and the outfitters that rely on the economic activity of the Boundary Waters all year long. I mean, I'm more likely to go in the summertime. I'm probably not going to be doing a lot of ice camping in the wintertime. But,
Those are all like little mom and pop businesses that have been owned by families for generations too, which is
that
just
is exactly
really
right.
people don't understand that this is part of the culture. out there. It's part of these are members of the community that are going to be losing their livelihoods.
Yeah,
So
that's right. Well, I just want everyone to know that, we narrowly lost the vote in the Senate, but that doesn't mean that the fight is over. We lost the vote, but we are not going to lose this fight. And now there will be a lengthy permitting process, and both by the state and by the federal government. And I feel confident that if the laws are followed, then those permits will never be given because the mine is just too dangerous to the watershed.
What do you see as success 5 years from now?
Well, 5 years from now, I would like to see a piece of legislation that is going to be on the going to be under consideration next year in Minnesota that basically says, nope, we're not going to build a mine. We're not going to build a copper sulfide mine in the watershed of the Boundary Waters. I'd like to see that passed, and I'd like to see, just for extra measure, that the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources says that they will not give the permit to mine. And if we win some elections at the federal level, then we could also reinstate other protections at the federal level as well, which would be sort of double and triple good, just to make sure that we don't have to keep on fighting this fight every year for decades.
I think Minnesota has been spending far too much time in the headlines this past year.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Because the next point that we're going to talk about is Operation Metro Surge. And it was just so unprecedented. Monica and I are both from Maple Grove, so you're probably familiar with the metro area.
Oh, yeah.
Monica's daughters lived in the city and were on patrol. Monica herself was on patrol during that time. And how do you think the state is recovering from this event? Because what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling still is this residual trauma from what the government inflicted upon us.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've talked to so many people about this at home, and there was a fundamental trust that people had that was shattered by Operation Metro Surge. And that trust is about whether you believe that your government, the federal government, is there to protect you or will it hurt you. And what happened during Operation Metro Surge is people were grappling with seeing these armed men leap out of black Suburbans with masks and completely destroy people's civil rights, their human rights, injure people, even kill Minnesotans. And that trust has been shattered, and their faith has been shattered. And that is not going to just bounce back over, a week or two just because we don't see those black Suburbans driving around our state anymore. So I see it in enrollment in some parts of the city's metro areas, schools that are still down. I see it when my staff is helping families who still have loved ones that are detained in East Montana Detention Center down in Texas. These are people that were here legally, that were going through the immigration process and doing everything right. I see it in the restaurants that have lost so much. They lost revenue. They'll never recover. Some haven't even reopened. I see it in the indictments of the people who were out, probably like your daughters, Monica, who were out taking care of their neighbors and watching out for their community and were, attacked by the government for doing that. At the
For
same
thought crimes.
Yes, yes.
For thought crimes.
Yes, that's right. And I mean, let's all be clear. And I think Minnesota has been very clear about this. If you use violence to hurt other people or destroy property, that is not acceptable. We do not support that. But to just be using your voices and your bodies to demonstrate against something that is blatantly illegal, that is not a crime in this country, and it shouldn't be treated like a crime. And the people who do it should not be treated like criminals.
As we're recording this, it is 5 months to the day since Alex Preddy was killed, and there has been no one held accountable for his murder.
Yeah.
And yet we are seeing Minnesotans being arrested for, as Christy pointed out, thought crimes. That indictment doesn't really hold anything of substance.
Yep.
And what do you see going forward? What would accountability look like for you?
Well, accountability would be, first of all, a fair and unbiased and a trusted investigation done by both state and federal authorities that are like real law enforcement and not political people, to get to the bottom of what happened and to get accountability and justice for Alex Preddy and Nicole. And the other form of accountability that I would like to see would be some way of, repairing the damage that was done to so many businesses who haven't recovered from what happened. And I think that's what people are looking for. They're looking for. They know that the damage can't be undone, but if there is some justice in all of this, that would make a big difference. And I talked to my colleagues here in the Senate from Illinois and from California and from Oregon, from New Jersey, whose communities have also been torn apart by these terrible actions, and that the justice needs to be across the board, and not just Minnesota.
Yeah. And I think what's giving me hope is the judiciary, because let's move on to the judge who recently quashed
Yeah.
the subpoenas for Governor
Yes.
Walz,
Yes.
Attorney General Ellison and Mayor Fry.
Hmm.
What significance do you see in those decisions? Because to be honest with you, I was shocked that
Yeah.
that happened.
Yeah. Well, so everybody should just take a look at that opinion that the judge wrote. So this is a judge who was appointed by George Bush. He is a good federal judge, and he just called it like it is. He said these indictments are nothing but political retaliation. He was sort of scandalized by the blatant way in which the the president and his political people were attempting to use the judicial system to punish the president's perceived political enemies. And so I think it gave me a sense of hope that there are parts of our judicial system that are still working and that are still doing what needs to be done. And, gosh, the judges in the Minnesota district court system that have been holding the line against people that have been detained illegally and arrested illegally, and with just the flimsiest of excuses. Those judges have been really, they give me some hope. I don't know about you all, but they give me some hope
Yeah.
about our system can withstand this attack.
And for God's sake, I wish that the media was as pointed and insistent in other situations as they were with the federal attorney when he actually released the indictment. They were giving him no ground. I mean, they were firm and insistent with him, saying, how can you justify this? And I really wish that the media would be a little bit more that way, because I think it's giving them an inch and they'll take a mile.
Yeah,
And
I think that's right. That's such a great reminder, Christy, of how important a role the press has in holding these bad actors accountable. And of course, it's also a lot of what you all are doing too. You're having conversations with people and giving folks who are, listening and watching a way of feeling like there is some accountability in the system and people are telling them the truth.
So much of what we're seeing with indictments, the process is the punishment, because all of these are falling apart, but it's a matter of intimidation and fear.
Yeah.
And we spoke to the co-leaders of Twin Cities Indivisible the other day and what they're seeing. And despite that intimidation tactic, they are seeing more engagement. Are you hearing that from your office, from your constituents? They are more civically engaged?
Yeah, yeah. Didn't you have this feeling too when we were in the midst of Operation Metro Surge and it was February and it was so freezing outside and Minnesotans just kept showing up and kept engaging and kept doing what needed to be done. And when you thought they're going to get tired or something bad is going to happen, they just kept on going. And I think we showed America what resistance looks like. And I think that is still happening, not in exactly the same ways, but it's still happening. And that's what we need right now.
Yeah.
There is no magic to standing up to this authoritarian attempted takeover of our federal government. The magic is in the power of people to say, no, that's not what we're not going to do that. We're not going to allow that to happen.
The power of the people is greater than the people in power.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. And don't mess with Minnesotans, because we live in a state where the air hurts our face and mosquitoes are the size of Volkswagens. So
Especially don't mess with this in the winter, because we are always going to be better at winter than you are. Always.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, you're finishing up your final year as a United States Senator, and you've spent nearly a decade in Washington and years of public service here in Minnesota. How are you doing personally? Because that isn't
That's a big
switch you
change.
can just flip off,
I know.
right? So how are you doing personally in preparing for this next chapter?
Well, it's super interesting because I think a lot about what my life would be like if I'm running for reelection and how challenging it would be to be mounting a campaign at the same time that I'm doing this really important work to protect our democracy. And I'm grateful that I am able to focus on this job right away. Sometimes I feel like I should be doing a better job of preparing for what's next, but actually I'm just so focused on what I'm doing right now. I'm not spending a lot of time thinking about that. Literally, you all I can sort of get as far as imagining packing up my apartment in Washington. I can picture getting in the car with Archie and then driving someplace warm for a couple of weeks to just like decompress a little bit. And it's hard for me to picture. I've been working so hard for so many years. I mean, I'm like a lot of Americans, right? Maybe my job has been a little bit more in the public eye, but a lot of people go through this. You work really hard and then you have a major transition and you got to figure it out. And I'm excited though about the adventures ahead. And I have my entire life, I have been involved in my community, starting out when I was just a mom organizing my neighborhood. And I'm sure that that will continue to be a part of my life. And it's just going to be fun to see what happens next.
During our introduction, we shared some of your accomplishments, and we'll remind our listeners here. You helped pass more than 70 bills and provisions into law, efforts that helped establish Juneteenth as a federal holiday, expand access to mental health care, advance historic climate legislation. So as you are winding things down, what are you most proud of?
Oh, it's funny because today I've been thinking about this darn housing bill that the president is refusing to sign. And there's a big provision in that bill that I've worked very hard on for quite a few years to protect very affordable places for people to live in, 400,000 very affordable homes for people in small towns and rural communities. And when that passes, that's going to be somehow it's got to get done.
Yeah.
I'll be very, very proud of that. But honestly, I think the thing that I will be most proud of when it's all said and done is the work that I've done around mental health. And think about kind of what we were all talking about when it came to mental health before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and especially thinking about the impact of the pandemic on our kids, not just our kids, but especially our kids. And I was working on mental health for young people before the pandemic, but I think I'll be most proud of the work that I've done to help to get better access to mental health care for kids in schools, and also just to make it a little bit more okay for young people to talk about their challenges and feel like there shouldn't be so much stigma around mental health. I mean, your head is part of your body, your brain is part of your body. Healthcare is healthcare, and everybody should have the right to healthcare as a human right, including mental health care.
Well, and I respect how open you've been when you've talked about your own mental health and dealing with things. I mean, a lot of people I think find a sense of hope in that and a sense of camaraderie in that they're not alone in struggling with their mental health, that everyone has that happen to them.
Yeah, I think I so appreciate you saying that. And, when I was first working on mental health in the Senate, I hadn't really told anybody outside of my family about some of my struggles when I was younger. And then I was a little resistant. And I think it was mostly because I didn't want to make this be about me. I wanted it to be about everybody, everybody who's having this challenge. But what I missed initially was the power of me speaking out as sort of helping to overcome some of that stigma. And it really drove home for me one day when I was at the airport flying back to Washington on a Monday morning. I was in buying, I don't know, Mentos or something like that before I got on the plane. And this young woman came up to me and she just said, "Senator Smith, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want you to know what a difference it has made to me in my life that you spoke openly about your own struggles, because it made it be easier for me to come to grips with the things that I've been going through." And I was like, well, if that's like one person, then it was, totally worth it.
Sometimes people just need permission.
Yeah,
They need
right.
to hear that validation, and you gave that to them.
And to see themselves in their leadership.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and then a lot of times people that are in positions of power and authority, whether it's in the, politics or, corporate world or wherever, they sort of present this persona of being untouchable and everything is great. And I'm here because I got it all together. And maybe if you, that's not really the way it is. And so kind of unbundling that a little bit, I think is, makes everybody seem more real.
And we asked this question of all of our guests. What is giving you hope right now?
Yeah. Well, what gives me hope is seeing people just organize and build power and do the work that they're doing in all the ways that they're doing it, whether it's like what you both are doing by creating a place for people to come together virtually and talk about what they care about, or whether it's the young volunteers that are showing up to organize for my friend Peggy Flanagan, who's running for United States Senate, or just like what gives me hope are the way that people are continuing to just show up and do the work. And I get a lot of hope when I see the young up and coming leaders moving into positions where they're not afraid to challenge the status quo and shake things up
Yes.
a little bit. And they're not just going to go along, to get along. They're going to really do something. And I love that.
Well, we know you have a bit of a time crunch, so we'll wrap things up, but we're going to end on a little bit of a lighter note because you have a notorious sweet tooth. And I taught music for 30 years, and every Halloween, as the kids would be leaving my room, I would tell them, did you know that November 1st is National Bring Your Music Teacher a Piece of Candy Day? And I would tell them that Butterfinger was my favorite, partly because I also like Butterfinger, but because I know a lot of the kids don't. So November 1st, I would have piles and piles of candy. So we have to know, what are you going to fill your candy dish with? And
Oh, well.
what should we tell everybody? Bring your favorite senator this candy tomorrow.
Well, I have a notorious weakness for hot tamales, the candy. Literally, I was up visiting the Fond du Lac band in northern Minnesota, and one of my friends there gave me like a 7-pound bag of hot tamale candy, and so that's my favorite. Though I have to tell you, I have an October rule about candy, Monica, which is that in October, you can eat as much candy corn as you can stand, but you can't have it the rest of the year.
I wish my husband had that role because he loves candy corn and like has a stash of it all the time, and I can't stand the smell of it.
Oh my God. Well, usually I eat so much the first like 5 days that I'm done. I can't eat anymore. But
We will be sure to bring you some hot tamales next time we see you then.
Thank you. It's so
And
much
just
fun to
as an
talk with
aside,
you.
when I was in college, I lived in a sorority house, and on the weekends, we had to fend for ourselves for meals. So Friday and Saturday nights, my dinner was often a box of hot tamales with a Diet Coke. I'm almost embarrassed to say that, but
Hey, listen,
you know,
sometimes that's what works. It just hits the spot.
yeah.
Yeah.
And where can listeners follow your work and stay connected with the issues that you care about and follow you here as you're ending your journey in the Senate?
Yeah, well, so people can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm still on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube too. So just write in Senator Tina Smith, and you'll find me out there making good trouble.
And
Yay.
any final words before we say goodbye?
Just thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a peaceful and gentle weekend. I think that is what we all deserve.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and for taking time to share your perspective with our audience. It's been an honor to have you. I got to tell you, Monica and I have been giddy all week, and we
Yes.
haven't been able to tell anybody because we just can't, because we didn't know with your schedule if
Something
this
might
would definitely
happen, right.
work. But
Yeah.
both of us have been fangirling all week because you
Totally.
truly are our favorite senator from Minnesota.
Oh,
So yeah,
well,
thank you so much.
thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week, and great fun talking to you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. We appreciate you
Yeah.
so much and your service to Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you.
To our listeners, if you're finding meaning in the story we're sharing, if something moves you, challenges you, makes you see the world a little differently, please like, comment, and share. It helps more than you know.
And follow us everywhere at The Politics Chicks on Substack, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
Thanks for being a part of our community, and keep shining your light so we can find each other in the dark.
And remember, we're stronger together. Thank you again, Senator Smith.
Thank you so much.